everyone. So today we are going to talk to Jacob Findlay with Fullbay. He is the founder and CEO and a Galvanize member. So thank you so much for being here today on our podcast.
You're welcome. Great to be here, Miranda.
Yeah, and I got to say, I love the fact that I'm able to interview a Galvanize member, and especially one that's been with us for so long.
Yes, we are OG Galvanize.
I think I was actually just thinking, I think that you've been at Galvanize longer than I have personally. When did you enter in our space?
I think Galvanize opened February or March of 2017. Mm-hmm. I think that was it. So yeah, I mean, we were picking out our suite when there was still construction going on.
Wow. Well, that's super cool. And just a little bit of history that I really wanted to cover. So again, thank you so much for being here. And just as on the topic of timing, when was Fullbay founded?
Fullbay was founded, we launched sales in August of 2015. And we were working on developing the app, which is our main product, for 3 years before that.
Wow. So let's talk about exactly what Fullbay does and, your application and start to finish. So what is Fullbay?
Fullbay is a platform for running repair shops, specifically commercial vehicle repair. So if you think of like a semi-truck or a delivery truck, that kind of thing, the place where those trucks get fixed, those shops, those run on Fullbay. Our platform runs them from end to end.
So is it kind of like an all-inclusive, someone starts on the app and then they are able to identify shops within a certain radius, or is it on like the driving path that they're on? How does someone come about using your product?
So the customer is actually the shop, not the truck driver or the fleets. So the shops use our software to take in repair requests. So imagine if you take your car in to get fixed, right? You probably call them up on the phone, or maybe you just drive up. Somebody at the shop is entering your repair request into the system. And the way most shops do it is they'll print it out on a piece of paper and so forth. So with Fullbay, the shop will take the repair request, they enter it into the system, and then they'll assign it to a technician, and it will pop up on the tablet for the technician. And then the tech will then diagnose the issue, recommend what needs to happen, say what parts they need. All of this stuff around finding the parts and diagnosing things and getting your authorization with like a text message or whatever. All of this stuff is happening inside Fullbay, all the way to the end where the shop is creating an invoice and taking payment from the customer. So it's this nice, clean end-to-end experience. And we chose to focus on the commercial repair space. So we don't sell it to the shop where you or I would take our car to get fixed. We're selling it to these big, dirty commercial repair shops that are usually in industrial areas of the city that people just completely ignore and don't realize exist. So it's very sexy, very sexy.
So what you're saying is like, it's definitely a place that I'm going to stumble upon. So one of my questions here is that, that is such a specific area of business and such a specific service to offer. How did that even come about?
Well, so my background is in electronic medical records software. I was at, going further back, I'm a CPA by trade. So I worked for Deloitte here in town in Phoenix, and then Ernst & Young. And I landed at a EMR startup that we grew and sold. I was the controller there. And then I joined another startup on the finance side, WebPT here in town. And when I first was looking at going to WebPT, I was a little bit nervous about the fact that it was physical therapy, which when I thought of physical therapy, I thought of like my grandma's orthotics, right? Something like that, which is not to the case. It's actually pretty cool. There's a lot of sports medicine stuff related and so forth. And I've personally had physical therapy since then. It's been super helpful, but it's not exactly considered like a sexy space, or it didn't to me at the time. So when I was kind of getting the itch to make a run at it on my own, I was trying to think of one of the factors I was trying to think of. Well, what is less sexy than physical therapy? Is that even possible? And that's where, when this opportunity in the truck repair space, diesel repair space came up, it definitely fit the bill there. So the whole idea of being really specific is that you are building software for a vertical. And the vertical needs to be big enough, but just like WebPT did it with the physical therapy vertical, we're doing it with the truck repair vertical. And as long as there's tens of thousands of potential customers out there, which there are in truck repair, that's plenty to build an entire business, a very good business on.
So, I mean, it sounds like you're making an intentional effort to go for like an area that's hyper competitive. Just kidding. With the idea of going in such a niche area, something that's so specific, and an area that's, I mean, in all honesty, probably been neglected for a very long time. How was that received when you kind of came into this space?
It's received really well. When we first started selling or trying to sell the software, it was me cold calling shops. When we were finally able to convince people to take a demo, even our early version of the software, which we were a little embarrassed about, demoed extremely well because we had this deep experience. See, what I did was I got to a point where I quit my job at WebPT. It was a pretty good job, made good money and had stock options and all this. I quit my job there to go work in a truck shop for a year to get some kind of firsthand experience of the pain in running a shop and some of the problems that shops deal with. So by the time we launched the product, we were really solving problems that they had that nobody else was solving. A lot of them were having to use software that was built for those kind of retail repair shops where we would take our car to get fixed. Mm-hmm. This software that was out there, but didn't really address the needs of commercial repair. So when we brought this to market, we were addressing those needs specifically, which no one had done before, really. At least no one with a modern solution. And so coupling those solutions that we brought with modern technology, cloud-based technology, this app they can use, it's been very successful.
That's incredible. I mean, I would almost wonder if they were like, we're going to stick to our pieces of paper till the end of time. But the fact that they were not only welcoming, but I had no idea that you actually quit and worked in a truck repair shop. That had to have been quite a transition.
Yes, it was. Transition. It was definitely a transition. People thought I was crazy. And look, anytime you're starting a business or you have an idea to start a business, you're always going to go through this awkward period where your friends and family are like, should I be the one? That's a bad idea. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And because a lot of these ideas don't end up going anywhere, and I had my share of ideas that didn't end up going anywhere. People are kind of used to this concept that somebody has a crazy idea. It's just a phase they'll get through. So when I quit my job, I think people felt really uncomfortable. What is he thinking, right? He's going to go work for a truck shop. This is never going to work. And I know people thought that because people that I worked with previously said that behind my back, and it got back to me. And that was both discouraging and motivating because I had a pretty good idea that this was actually going to work, and I was dedicated to doing it. And by the way, the experience of working in those two startups gave me the skills to pull it off. Really, I couldn't have done it if I hadn't worked at WebPT and CareFX, my previous company. And in many ways, I'm standing on the shoulders of Brad and Heidi there at WebPT, and Paul also, and then the team at CareFX. So.
Yeah, I mean, I love that the startup community is so supportive of one another, and the fact that you were able to take those experiences, and I'm sure you even had conversations about like, hey, is this crazy? Is this the direction we should be going? And just Absolutely. the counsel of the startup community is just so invaluable.
Absolutely.
And I've actually, some of the best success stories that I've heard of founders have been people who actually went and immersed themselves in the industry. I mean, shameless plug, Salad and Go, my favorite salad restaurant in the world. Yeah, they went and they worked in, some of the different fast food restaurants and figuring out the errors. And now they are just like one of the most efficient places I've ever seen. Yeah. So that concept of, I'm going to immerse myself. I'm going to learn the pain points firsthand and then solve them is just an incredible method of thinking.
Yeah, totally agree.
So with where Fullbay is today, what does that look like?
Well, we are in all 50 states. We're all across Canada. We just entered Australia, and we are the number one. We took over the number one position in commercial repair, 2.5 years ago, and we're continuing to widen the gap there. So we're in a market leading position. It's not just the software that we offer, but our content and our thought leadership are making a big impact in the industry, kind of organizing an industry that wasn't otherwise organized. So far, so good. We feel like we're just getting started, that there's a long way to go. And yeah, the sky's the limit. It's really been a lot of fun to get to this point, and we're excited for what the future holds. So.
It seems like every time I, walk by and I see a new person and they're walking down the hallway, that they're always turning into the Fullbay offices, or they're, a new member of your team. How many people do you have employed right now?
We have, we don't disclose our headcount number. We're very protective of our metrics.
You can give us a range or percentage range of growth.
I'll say this: we have way more employees than I feel comfortable having. I had a goal to never have more than 30. So I will say we're well beyond 30. One of the great things that we've been able to pull off, because we bootstrapped this company, right? Is our revenue to employee ratio is extremely healthy. We do really well, and that enables us to reinvest that money that we save in sales and marketing and development, further enriching the product. So yeah, that's the long non-answer.
That's amazing. And I mean, I think that has to be really telling of, the growth and the future of Fullbay. And one of the things I always love to ask is, what's your culture like now?
Culture is great. I mean, your culture changes with every hire. Mm-hmm. What we currently define as our culture, that I think is still pretty accurate, is number one, I mean, we try to focus on bringing in only high functioning people. So people that exhibit, accomplishment in areas of their life other than professional. So we expect them to be competent in the professional skills that we are looking for, but also people that, run marathons or Ironmans or whatever. So we focus on bringing in high functioning people. If you think about it this way, if you want to put a band together, just harkening back to my comment about the head count, if you want to put together a band, what would you rather have? Would you like to have a 200 person high school marching band? It's not bad. Or would you like the Beatles? So what we're trying to do is assemble the Beatles, right? So assemble high functioning people. We believe we are tool builders. So if you look at maybe in your garage, you've got tools, or any kind of a shop, they've got tools and toolboxes. We believe we're just another tool for the shop. It's a software tool, but it's a tool. So one of the things that's always fascinated me, especially coming from the EMR space, was the concept that software could be a tool for healing people. And the dirty secret, some of the kind of enterprise electronic medical records, if you ever talk to doctors, nurses, other providers, is that software is geared more around billing people than healing people. It's not necessarily a tool for healing. And companies like WebPT are innovating and helping solve that problem. But we believe we're tool builders, and building tools that are able to help these shops run efficiently, get the employees of the shops into work, help them get their work done, and then get the heck out of there and have a side of work with their family, friends, personal development. And then we try to practice what we preach. So as far as our culture goes, we want a work environment where with the right tools in place that we build, and we also adopt a lot of software tools, which helps us keep the headcount down. We can also all can get done, make a big impact, but then get out of here and have a life outside of work. So that's kind of our culture.
That's incredible. And I love your analogy of, would you rather have a marching band or the Beatles? I mean, I'm kind of an office fanatic myself, and it made me think of this time when Michael Scott was like, would you rather have a whole band for an hour or just the harpist all day? I was like, why would you?
Yeah, that analogy totally works.
Yeah, I was just like laughing. I was like, obviously you'd want the complete, group and professionals. And I think that's, a really good way of thinking about it. And I know that when you were talking, you had mentioned, tools kind of plural. What are there any other areas or line items that you guys are doing with going into business?
In terms of what we sell? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the core of our platform is shop management software to run the kind of the day-to-day. But one of the really valuable things that we offer is when I was at WebPT, I was speaking with a colleague of mine who had come from Shamrock Foods. He had actually run the fleet over there. He's actually now with Fullbay. He's our COO. And he was just mentioning in passing, it was fortuitous that he had done this at Shamrock. He was just mentioning in passing, if you're ever driving down the freeway and you find yourself next to a semi-truck, you want to get out of there. Either get ahead or get behind. You never want to drive right next to a truck, because all that has to happen is a kingpin goes out, the truck veers in front of you, you hit it, there's an explosion, and everybody dies or something like that. The reality is that it can be dangerous sharing the roads with these commercial trucks. What we do, the mission, right, of what we're doing, we believe that, I'm using software as a tool for healing. We preach to these shops to take over the preventive maintenance for their customers that run these big trucks that we in our the road with. We believe that we're successfully done. As we sell to the entire market, critical mass, what we've successfully done is we've made it so easy to maintain these trucks. We have introduced a profit motive to maintain the trucks, that the quality of the maintenance of these trucks is going in the industry. So it's actually safer and safer to share the roads with them. So we're all about making the shops more profitable and getting them home to their families. But ultimately, one of the cool byproducts of what we're doing is that we're making the roads safer for all of us. And so as far as like the products that we put out, that. So we have products, we have tools for fleets, more and more that we're introducing. And I can't go too much into it, but that's the thrust of what we're doing. It's really sad.
I think that's incredible. It's not only maintenance, I need the engine lights on, but it's about, preventative. And I think that the more that you can show not only the shops, but also the owners of the trucks, that preventative maintenance ends up saving you money. I mean, it's such an easy sell.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think now that we've established that you've got an amazing idea and it's going really well, was there ever a time where you had hesitation or doubt?
Yes, absolutely. Especially early on, like I mentioned, I've had other ideas that didn't end up going anywhere. Sometimes that's a function of just not finding the right partners to work with. I'm not a technical founder. I wish I could code, but I stopped in high school. So once we felt like we had traction, the way it kind of works is the most successful in general, this isn't always true, but I think the most successful entrepreneurs out there are also the most reverse people you will ever meet. And the reason that they're successful is because they've figured out how to eliminate as much of the risk as possible from the process. So I think a lot of the doubt came in early as we were doing the work to eliminate that risk. And once you start to see that, I think this is going to work, things start to get a lot better. You just have to be careful that as you go, you don't get too far ahead of yourself. I mean, it's a constant process of testing. They say, the way is to go from an A to the plan that works before you run out of resources, right? Mm-hmm. So, series of tests. As far as doubt as to whether there was an opportunity in the market, I think we eliminated that early. I will say that I live in a constant paranoia. I don't know if that helps color the question. You just have to be aware of what could go wrong.
Well, I think that you right on the right path of eliminating hesitations early, going at it as quick as you can, and with you kind of quoting yourself, a constant state of paranoia. I think it's interesting that you opted to bootstrap this company. What prompted that?
Well, early on, I didn't want to bootstrap it. I wanted to get paid, right? But somebody that I was speaking with, a mentor, I said, hey, it'd be really nice to raise some money so I could start paying myself. And he said, the last thing you want to tell an investor is that you want to raise money so you can pay yourself. They're not going to want to invest. And so I kind of took that, and I talked to some others, but we were fortunate. I mean, I was living on savings. I was fortunate from my past experiences to have built up some savings. I've always lived below my means. So what's really nice about bootstrapping is you don't dilute your ownership. Mm-hmm. And so when we eventually did raise a round of funding in 2019, it was a very clean cap table. So, and I knew that that would be the case. You also don't have to deal with some of the stresses of a board early on. Mm-hmm. And I was aware of that. So it was kind of a combination of things that prevented us from raising any capital. And when we eventually did, we were able to be we didn't need the money, right? So we were able to be very picky in what partner we chose, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's such a rarity, because so many times you'll see founders that are like, I need to capture as much funding as I can. I need to get this, I need to get that. And then it ends up, they have such a diluted spread where there's a bunch of people that have, 5 or 10% or these random spreads. So that was incredibly smart. And, I know that you have really looked on, WebPT and some of the other startup companies to kind of mentor you. Were there any key mistakes that you saw other startups making that you kept kind of in the back of your head as you were starting yours, like things to avoid?
I think the raising the money left and right before looking to really grow your revenue is probably the biggest mistake, in my opinion, a mistake. It's not necessarily a mistake, but it's something that I viewed as a mistake that informed how I approach things. Because imagine trying to get through a year of COVID, right? Where maybe you're having a hard time acquiring customers, the acquisition cost goes up, people aren't signing up as much, and you're in a burn state. How are you going to raise money when investors are? It just puts you in a really difficult position. So we structured things so that we were profitable relatively early on. I guess I'll put it this way. The best investor to bring into your company is your own product, because you can start selling it. The best thing you can do is to start selling what you have as soon as possible and get some money coming in the door. Because not only is that just like an investor check, money coming in the door, it's also validation that the market actually wants your product. Because it's amazing what happens when you actually ask someone to swipe their credit card and pay for your product. So there's just so much virtue around trying to get a product to market as quickly as you can and get that validation. Do people want this or not? And an amazing side product of that is it starts bringing revenue in the door. So you don't have to go out and look for $50,000 checks every time you need to cover your payroll. You have built this investor in perpetuity, which is your product. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it sounds, incredible. And the fact that you were so, well received in the industry to be able to have that come early on, even when you were developing your MVP. And, now that you're, really getting the roll of things, I actually had no idea that you were in all 50 states now. That's huge. And now expanding to Australia. I mean, that's just the dream. That's really, really impressive. With the 50 states that you have, I mean, it had to have been a little tricky to just make the first jump and say, I'm going out of my, my current bubble, my current comfort zone. How did that expansion look as you went across the different states?
Well, we built our company in a way that, first off, we built it as a remote company. Mm-hmm. So when we took this suite at Galvanize, that was the first real office space that we had. I guess we did remote before it was cool to do remote. There's a book by the guys that started 37 Signals. It's now called Basecamp. That company called Remote, which is just a great guide for running a remote operation. We really took that to heart. So because we were already a remote operation, it didn't really matter to us. We weren't doing sales in person. We had an inbound approach, and so we took the customers from wherever they came from. In fact, our first customer was not in Arizona; it was in Texas. Oh. And it actually took a while before we really got traction in Arizona, which, is okay. It's tempting to want to just go in and try to sell it to a random shop that you see. But an inbound approach is a lot better, because then you're attracting people who are actually looking for software. So you kind of have to resist the temptation to go impose yourself on your neighbors who may have the business that you have. It can actually force you to try to make yourself more relevant. So, yeah. That's it kind of happened organically, and we've been in all 50 states for a few years now.
That's amazing. So you're growing, you're expanding, you've been in the market for a while. Are you seeing any competitors popping up in your area?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been the competition from light duty software, and that will always be there. The biggest worry is the competitor that you don't even know about yet. So competition's there. We welcome it. We think we've got something special. We have a lot of confidence in our ability to execute, and there is room in the space for more than one. We don't think that for us to succeed, one of our competitors has to fail. But at the same time, we're not really too overconfident. I think, like I said, living in a constant state of paranoia. We just want to keep executing and give our customers what they want.
As you're growing, what would be your goal, 3 to 5 years from now? Are there a couple of, milestones you're hoping to hit soon that you can share?
Yeah. Yes. I can't wait to talk to you in 3 to 5 years to let you know what those were. We definitely have them.
That's great. I mean, I look forward to seeing you guys grow. Last but not least, I always like to finish it off with, do you have any advice for someone who's, maybe trying to get up the nerve to start a business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, get the book Running Lean. I would recommend that. Build up your savings, develop the habits of living well below your means. And if you can, learn how to code, because that's a huge advantage. Otherwise, you're going to need to partner with somebody if you don't code. And go to work in the industry. Look, I was fortunate because I worked for a couple of successful startups where we saw it all the way through to a good exit, a good outcome. There's something about the psychology of being part of a company that gets to exit. So if you find yourself today in a startup, your best bet is to stick around until the exit, so you can see that. Not only is there some psychological benefit to that, but you're also going to learn a lot through the process. It's kind of like the college coach who recruits specifically for players whose high school team won the state championship. It's a big factor, not just their physical attributes, talent, but also, have they seen a tournament all the way through to the end? Do they know what it takes when the going gets tough? So I would go work for a startup if you can, at all possible, and also get experience working in the industry. If you're going to be like me and start a vertical SaaS company, get experience in that industry. If they're both the same thing, well, you might have some issues with your non-compete agreement, but you definitely want to get those two. I think working in a startup environment is probably even more important. So you can see what it takes to build and scale a company. So I guess that would be the biggest advice I'd give.
I love it.
At a startup, start saving your money, live modestly, and then go make a run at it.
I love it. How can people learn more about Fullbay?
We have a website. Guess what it is?
Fullbay.com.
Fullbay.com. Go to fullbay.com and we've got some great content there. If you ever run into me anywhere, feel free to hit me up and chat. And we're also part of the Startup AZ Foundation, and that's a really good resource for anybody looking to start up a company. I think they're in Galvanize too.
Yeah.
So lots of resources available, more and more available here locally for anybody that's looking to do it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I very much look forward to seeing how Fullbay is going to grow, not only over the next few months, but for the long haul. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Take care.